What if he's a victim of mental illness? Which is why he says that it was not because of race, but it was because of the system that has failed all of us. Which could say that both Neely and Penny are victims in two different ways. Hello everyone, welcome back to Youth Speak Out Time. If you have not already known, my name is Trinity, and today I'm going to be talking about the death of Jordan Neely. If you're from New York City, you may know the story. A 30-year-old Michael Jackson impersonator named Jordan Neely was killed on May 1st due to a chokehold done by another passenger named Daniel Penny. Now, Jordan Neely was homeless and he was screaming at other passengers when Penny actually wrapped his arms around his neck and his head until he fatally died. Due to the oh, God. This has led advocates and city officials to actually protest the next day, fighting for not only the justice of Neely, but for the arrest of Penny. But this is the interesting fact, though. Penny was a former Marine, and he actually spoke out just an hour ago today saying that this intervention had nothing to do with race. Rather, he said that it was for his own protection and he was trying to defend himself. Neely was not only screaming at passengers, but he was also throwing trash. But the way Penny is recalling the event is as if he's trying to clear his name. Not in a way that he's claiming that he didn't do it, because obviously he did, but just that it's not his fault and that there was a specific reason for it. He even directly claims that he's not ashamed of what he's done, but rather he says that he done what he believed was right. So he even gives a whole story about how much of a great person he is, and he didn't mean the death of Neely, and he just feels so bad about his death. His argument is pretty sentimental, so it's showing like he's a good person. He does a lot of productive things, and his death was really just a way of him protecting himself. Now, in despite of this argument, you may still believe that he should be arrested. But what's interesting here is that Penny was a Marine. So Marines are actually people who are the part of the first force on ground in most wars, most conflicts. So they're the ones that are actually on the front lines, fighting in war, protecting. Now, when you're in a position like this, you can develop a lot of mental issues like PTSD or depression just because of the traumatic things that you see when you're on battleground. So now this is probably why Penny actually explains what he does, all of the productive, normal things that he does, because he's sort of in that stage where he's trying to somehow overcome the experiences that he's been through as a Marine. Now, I'm not claiming anything, but I'm just making inferences because this argument definitely generates a lot of questions, especially when Penny says the death of Jordan Neely had nothing to do with race, but rather a broken system that has so desperately failed. Which system is he talking about, though? Perhaps he's talking about the system that is supposed to help out people with mental illness. Even though Penny claims he's a normal guy, he could also have some trauma, which could be the reason why he says that the chokehold on Neely is just because he was trying to protect himself. Because if you think about it, someone who's actually been on the ground to see an opposing military actually murdering, killing people on his side, then it would make sense for him to try to protect himself. Maybe when Neely was going through the mental episode of screaming at those passengers and actually throwing things, it actually reminded him of the things that he experienced during war. Maybe Penny had an experience where someone was simply saying something, but then all of a sudden something happens, like they attack. So maybe Penny put him in that chokehold not to only protect himself, but to protect other people that were on the train, just like he used to do in the past, without actually having the motive to kill him, to kill Neely. And again, Penny's argument seems to be very personal and very sentimental, as he says that the New York City transit system, he says, is probably the best in the whole world, and it's the best he's ever been to. So it seems like he's basically putting himself as a victim of his own crime. Because maybe he's trying to say that he didn't actually mean to kill Neely, but he felt like he had to because of the experiences that he already went through, which could be a sign of PTSD. Now, I'm not necessarily on Penny's side, but rather I'm just making inferences because when you look at this argument and the actual event, it makes you have questions about if there's really two sides of the story. Yes, Neely's death was tragic, especially since he's had a lot of mental illnesses and he was homeless. But what if Penny also is going through something? Or what if he's a victim of mental illness, which is why he says that it was not because of race, but it was because of the system that has failed all of us, which could say that both Neely and Penny are victims in two different ways. Again, I'm not claiming anything, but I'm making inferences on the story. Otherwise, Neely's death was definitely a tragic death and definitely very unfortunate, and may his soul rest in peace. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next one.